Welcome back. It's your girl Cooking with Tammy. Tonight I'm going to show you how to make a delicious spicy sausage cornbread stuffing. When I tell you this spicy sausage cornbread stuffing is going to be everything, it's going to be an absolute crowd pleaser. But first thing we need to do is make our cornbread from scratch. However, if you don't feel like making a cornbread from scratch, you don't have to. Just grab yourself a box of Jiffy cornbread mix and that's all you're going to need. At the end of the day, trust me, this recipe is going to come out absolutely delicious, whether if you make homemade cornbread or use the box cornbread. Here's the ingredients for our spicy sausage cornbread stuffing. First thing we're going to need for this recipe is cornmeal, of course, which we're going to be adding to this bowl. We're also going to need some all-purpose flour, not self-rising flour, but all-purpose flour. We're also going to add our sugar along with our baking powder, not baking soda, but baking powder. Sometimes we tend to get it mixed up. We're also going to add some granulated sugar. We're going to get there with our whisk, and we're just going to combine all of the dry ingredients together. We're going to add our eggs, followed by our milk, and we're going to add a good amount of butter. We're going to get there, we're going to mix it all up. We're just going to make sure everything is perfectly combined. This is such an easy, foolproof recipe, guys. You can't go wrong. Just mix it up really good. Make sure everything is perfectly incorporated. In the meanwhile, our oven should be preheated to 400 degrees Fahrenheit because we're going to place our cornbread into our cast iron skillet, recommended of course. However, if you don't have a cast iron skillet, I'm not going to beat you up too much. You could definitely use a casserole dish, whether it be a see-through casserole dish or a white casserole dish. And if you ain't got that either, use a baking pan, aluminum that is. Mix this on up really good. We're going to add some butter to our cast iron skillet. Make sure you add a good amount. You don't want your cornbread sticking to the pan or the cast iron skillet. So make sure to add a good amount of butter all over the pan. I don't care what you're using, whether it be an aluminum baking pan, casserole dish, cast iron skillet. Just make sure you add enough butter. Once we're done, we're going to take our cornbread batter and we're going to add it to our pan. We're going to place our cornbread into our 400 degree Fahrenheit oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. Once we're done, we're going to stick a fork or a toothpick or a knife into the cornbread, and once it comes out clean, then you know for a fact your cornbread is baked all the way through. I'm going to give you some keynotes because you know the holidays are really special. You don't want to make this cornbread at the very last minute. That's one. Secondly, you want to make this cornbread either the night before or a couple hours prior to making your cornbread dressing, allowing it enough time to cool on down. For our dressing, we're going to need to cut up some celery and onions. I'm going to be using sausages in the casing to make our delicious stuffing. Now here's the thing, guys. If you're going to be using sausage in the casing, you want to be able to take a knife, paring knife that is, right? And you're just going to run it on down just like that. Make sure the knife is sharp. And you're going to simply go in. Boom, 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 boom. You're going to remove the casing. It comes off so easily. Just like that. Toss it in the garbage and just place it to the side. For this recipe, you could definitely use breakfast sausages, either or. Pork sausages, turkey sausages, it really doesn't matter. Just make sure you find a sausage that has a nice flavor to it. Even though I said we're going to be making a spicy dressing, feel free to use sweet sausages. You don't have to use spicy sausages because sometimes spicy sausages could be a little bit overwhelming to the palate. And not to mention, if you are going to be feeding kids and guests, obviously, outside of the family, sometimes we just don't know the palates of everybody who's coming to our, to our house. So it's really important to, if you do spice this recipe on up, don't spice it up too much. All right, to a hot pan, guys, we are gonna add a good amount of butter. Be sure to add enough butter to brown the sausages on up. However, if you are going to be using, let's say, a sausage with a higher fatty content, maybe pork or even beef, you don't have to add as much butter. However, the butter is going to definitely not only help to brown the sausages on up, but it's definitely going to give it a great flavor as well. Once the smoke clears, we're going to add our sausages. We're not going to break our meat down too much because we want to leave those chunky bits in there, because when we incorporate it with the stuffing, we want to be able to taste the sausage and the dressing. What I appreciate about breakfast sausages is the aromatics. Oh my goodness, when you break the sausage on down, you can smell all of the sage, the fennel. Oh, it smells so good. It smells so good. With this recipe, all you have to do is choose your favorite sausage. Doesn't matter which brand. And it doesn't even matter if it's turkey sausage. Allow the sausage to brown on up and cook all the way through. We're going to give it some more time. I am going to add just a small amount of oil because I'm going to be adding the veggies to this pan, and I want to be able to have enough oil to brown and saute my veggies as well. However, if you are using, like, let's say a pork sausage, all you're going to need is some butter. And once the sausage starts to render, it's going to produce a lot of fat. But if you are using turkey, you're going to have to probably, along with the butter, add a small amount of oil. But we are going to add our onions, along with our bell peppers. And we're just going to give it a good stir. Right now, our flame should be on medium heat. We're going to allow our celery to cook on down until it's slightly softened and our onions nice and translucent. We're looking good so far. Our sausages has been browning for at least 8 minutes so far, and our veggies are starting to slightly soften up. But we want to jazz the flavors on up in this pan, all right? So we're going to hit it with some chicken bouillon because I'm using turkey sausages. However, if you're going to be using, let's say, beef sausages, add some beef bouillon. Trust me, you're going to thank me later. And of course, by now you should have your Cooking with Tammy all-purpose chicken seasoning, all right? You should have it. No exceptions. However, if you don't have it, I'm going to go a little easy on you. You could definitely add some salt and pepper to jazz the flavors on up just a bit. We're going to get in there. We're going to stir it on up really good. Make sure everything is well incorporated. We're going to take in all of those delicious aromatics. Smells so divine. All right, we're going to allow the veggies to soften up just a tad bit more. And we're going to be in business in about 2 more minutes. Let's add some chicken broth. However, you can use veggie broth as a secondary option. We're going to definitely stir it on up. After adding the liquid, we're going to turn the stovetop off. Our cornbread had enough time to cool on down, and I'm talking about 30 to 45 minutes. So we're good to go. It's slightly warm, but it's good enough. All right, what we're going to do to this bowl is, guys, we are going to take our cornbread. And this cornbread does not have to be perfect, all right? Because we're going to hydrate it with our liquid. We're just going to break this cornbread on up into chunky bite-sized pieces. If you notice, I didn't add any butter to the top or any of that stuff. No honey butter, none of that special stuff. Simply because, like I said, we're going to be using it for our dressing. So, like, what's the point, right? I know somebody's going to ask me, we did add sugar to the batter. Is it going to be sweet? No, not at all. We're going to take our liquid and we're going to hydrate our cornbread. All of our beautiful sausage. We're going to scrape the pan on out. Boom, just like that. We're going to add our all-purpose chicken seasoning. Add a good amount because we want to season everything on up. We're going to add 2 eggs to the mix. And we're just going to pour it on top. Now, adding the eggs is going to allow everything to stick together once it's baked on up. We're just going to get in there. We're going to fold everything on in. During the incorporating process, our cornbread is going to break up, but that's totally okay. All right, we are going to allow our cornbread mixture to sit for about 10 minutes because I want everything to soak in and I want all of the flavors to marry. And you get what I'm saying. I want all of the flavors to just literally get situated into this cornbread. So like I said, we're going to allow it to sit for 10 minutes and that's about it. Add some butter to this casserole dish. Make sure you add a good amount. Because we don't want our delicious stuffing stuck into this casserole dish, all right? Don't embarrass me. Especially when you have guests over. Imagine them trying to like literally self-serve themselves and you can't get the dressing out of the casserole dish, right? Because you didn't add enough butter. Listen, add the butter and you could probably even go with some non-stick cooking spray as well to make sure it doesn't stick. We're gonna take our delicious dressing and we're gonna add it to our greased casserole dish. Just like that. Our oven should be preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's cover our cornbread dressing down with some aluminum foil. After 30 minutes, we're going to baste our cornbread dressing with some melted butter. Don't be scared, add a good amount of butter because the butter is going to allow the cornbread dressing to come out nice and golden brown. And it's also going to create those nice crispy edges that we can all appreciate. At this point in time, we're going to place it back into our oven and allow it to bake on up for about 30 to 45 minutes uncovered. However, be sure to check to make sure your cornbread dressing is not burning. Let's get this taste test going. I'm like super excited. Gonna get in there. We have our nice little crunchy edges going on. Inside is still nice and moist, as you can tell. My mouth is salivating. I'm like so excited. Your girl has done it again. I have done it again. Honestly, I think this might be the best cornbread dressing that I have ever made. This is delicious, guys. Let me tell you something. If you want to be a cut above the rest and you want to be that person that's dedicated to bringing something to, let's say, the potluck or the Thanksgiving dinner, or even if you have like a whole group of people coming over to your house and you want to redeem yourself, this is definitely the way to go right here. This thing right here is delicious. Now, here's the thing. Because the ingredients are so basic, I dare you to literally go out, make this ahead of time if you don't believe me, before your guests come over. And of course, we can't get all of this delicious flavor if we don't use Cooking with Tammy seasoning. I mean, it's only obvious, but this dish right here is absolutely delicious. And like I said earlier, it's universal with any type of sausage. Definitely make this dish for the holidays and you will be a cut above the rest. As always, I'm your girl Cooking with Tammy and I'm gonna keep these recipes coming.